With the advent of LucasArts having fallen into Disney's clutches, it was inevitable that comics would be released under their name. Given that the company also owns Marvel, it was, of course, down to them to produce a new series, of which was undoubtedly going to tread on the toes of existing lore. However, since Disney are creating their own timeline these days, one can't exactly shout at them for changing things. Or maybe you can. I'm going to anyway. So, here we have the first cycle of the new Star Wars comic, and needless to say, the front cover is a bit of a disappointment. A far cry from the adventurous angles and eye-catching covers of the Dark Horse era, instead we have the main cast standing before a boring white background with spacecraft flying overhead. What are they standing ready for? Who knows?
I don't know.
Likely they are just as lost and confused as the X-Wings and TIE fighters flying overhead.
Stay on target.
It's hardly inspiring, and it just comes off as boring. Get used to that, by the way. I'm going to be saying that word a lot. We should maybe start a tally system. So, getting into the comic, there are a number of issues that quickly become apparent as the plot goes on. One glaring problem is the vast inconsistency in art quality. Without meaning to sound like a traditionalist, Dark Horse produced a far more detailed and consistent style that is lacking here. The colours look terribly watered down and boring, and also lack a lot of texture for some reason. Many details have either been outright ignored or brushed over. It just strikes me as laziness, and it comes off as boring. The same applies for backgrounds as well as characters. Oftentimes the background consists of a single colour and nothing else. Even when there is a background, it looks so static and dull. Sorry, boring. Speaking of art quality, something that is worth noting is how the characters have been depicted. Many times you will see a realistic depiction, the next their expressions are weirdly distorted and their anatomy suddenly goes all over the place. You recall the classic characters such as Darth Bug-Eyed Vader and Luke Big-Nose Skywalker, right? Chewbacca's face looks oddly flat and distorted here, and what the criff is that? What's going on with Han's arm? It looks like it's become disembodied and developed a consciousness of its own, whacking every stormtrooper in sight. A disembodied The oddities don't end there either, especially seeing the weirdly proportioned stormtroopers or... I think there's something missing here. There we go. Forgetting to draw in the chair. That's just shoddy. Facial structure and boring expressions seem to vary wildly as well. Han, I think, has been given the best ones, with such classics as and that ass. Art aside, let us take a moment to talk about continuity. The vast eldritch beast that is Disney, as I mentioned earlier, wishes to create their own canon, which, though head-scratching at times, is fine, so long as they don't step on any of the sensitive toes. Which they have right here. Here we have Luke and Vader meeting each other for the first time. Yes, that's right. Apparently, they now met each other before Bespin. Okay, so putting aside the fact that this is one of the most static and boring duels in the history of anything, what I fail to understand is why they thought this was necessary. All this accomplishes is to decrease the impact of the original duel on Cloud City. The fight with Vader was meant to be Luke's first real taste of the power of the dark side, besides Celeste if we are counting the Dark Horse comics. Which we are! The duel on Bespin is intense, brutal, and exciting, with Luke putting his skills to the test against a powerful Force user, one of the most powerful of his time. Vader is clearly the master, while Luke is untamed, but possesses a steely determination and a stubbornness to accept defeat. Taking the story in isolation, many of the characters take quite illogical steps that you know are only there for the sake of advancing the plot, rather than anything interesting to spice up this boring plotline. It's not exciting, it's not engaging, the interiors are embarrassing at worst and subpar at best, and the storyline has more holes and plot conveniences than a full block of Swiss cheese. Maybe that will change as the narrative progresses, but as it stands, it's pretty damn underwhelming. Take your money somewhere else. This isn't the comic you're looking for.